Chris Morrow. I work at a company called Soltech, and I'm a senior UI developer there. And my roots are actually ActionScript. So actually, the first programming language I ever learned was ActionScript before I even touched Javascript. So I'm kind of on those backwards streets, but I'm just learning like everybody else. I'm just learning from kind of a different past. But self-admittedly, I'm not like the top. I'm not writing jQuery libraries. I'm not contributing to those high-level frameworks, but I'm using the frameworks. I'm learning like everyone else. So hopefully, beginner to intermediate will definitely be able to, hear what I'm saying and kind of take home some things that you can use, different patterns in your applications, so it can be more productive. So let's just jump right in. So what are modules? When we think of modules, sometimes we can think of these cubicles, separated sections. Maybe we think of more modular design boxes. Let's jump into the definition of a module. So a module is a standardized, often interchangeable component of a system or construction that is designed for easy assembly or flexible use. Also, a subset of that is a portion of a program that carries out a specific function. So you can think of it as building blocks of your application. Every little block has its own little specific tasks. You don't want to get into too many things of everything doing, everything in the world for your application. So let's get into the benefits of modules. First, they're single purpose, so they help keep your code focused on what that module needs to do, that specific block of code needs to do, and it also helps you stay focused. I know, especially me, if I start writing code and I'm like, what in the heck am I writing anymore? I don't even know where I was at, or why is this not working? So it helps you stay on task. And also the other benefit is it gives you a pattern to follow. So once you write or you adhere to a pattern of creating modules, then it helps you kind of form your code in the same way. Other people on your, let me not jump ahead. So it also gives you code reusability, so you can write modules in a way that they can be taken and used on other applications, frameworks like React that use components. Those are, component modules that can then be attached to other pieces of an application and reused. Also, it helps with your code maintenance, and especially with larger apps and larger teams, you have the same pattern. Someone can jump on, a new module, adhere to the same pattern. Everybody can kind of find out, how each module works and how they can talk together. Now let's jump into some module design patterns. Again, many of you are already using these and have gone beyond in different frameworks like Angular and React. The first is the object literal. So the first starting point of actually creating a module could be as simple as just creating an object. And then we'll expound on that and actually create a module. So now we have the braces at the top, braces at the bottom, and now we just have our property list. Again, object literal being each property with a comma at the end, and then next property. And again, even a property or a method like log could be a function instead of just a value. You can pass in a function, and then now that log you can call sommodule.log, and it would do the console log for you. So you can probably quickly see some issues with the object literal. It promotes organization, so it does put your code in one place, kind of give you a list of all your methods. And it does allow for namespacing, so as before we had sommodule.log, you could also have your app set up that way, so it could be my app name and .utils. And then under utils can be another object literal, which then has all those methods. So you can continue to chain your app in a way that is organized. But the big con with the object literal is everything's publicly accessible. So everybody can call those methods that you put on there. Everybody can overwrite, any property on there. So it's not safe. So we'll try to go beyond that. let's look at the module pattern. So one key difference is the module pattern, instead of creating an object, it creates an if-it, which is an immediately invoked function expression. So the first parentheses to the left of the F, and then the parentheses at the end wraps the function so that it's immediately invoked, and then we call the function here at the bottom. Now, the other benefit of the module pattern is, as you've already seen, and if you've used Angular or any of those frameworks, you can actually bring in global imports. So here you can actually, if you load jQuery, imagine this is a script file that gets loaded after jQuery library. You can pass in jQuery and then alias it with a $sign at the top. So you're passing in that dependency into your module, and then now you have a safe reference to jQuery with the $sign. That's right. All right, so the module pattern, you see, it has a return object, and everything in the return object is public. So those are your public methods, public functions that someone can call. So my module.setName, you can call all of these functions. Everything that's not in the return object are private. So these are private variables, but you could also have functions here that, as long as they're not returned in the return block, then those would be private. All right, let's look at a variation of this. So another option is to define module within your declaration, your wrapper function. You can pass in some private variables of any kind, and then to clearly state what you want public, you can just append to module. So module.public property, module.public method, and then at the very bottom of this wrapper function, you return module. And so when you return module, now anywhere in your program, anywhere in your JavaScript code, you would actually call some module. So module actually just passes this, creates this object, returns it up, and you'll actually still reference it as that root scope of some module. All right, slightly different. Anybody want to tell me what's different here? Anybody familiar with the Rebellion module? What's different from the last? I'll go back.
So you're creating module at the top, and then at the bottom you're just creating it on the fly.
Private function.
Right, exactly. So everything is essentially private, as we said, until the very bottom. The difference now is in your return, you just reference any function that you then want to make public. So it gives you the flexibility of you can have all of your functions, just all of them, and then here in a clean place, you can say, here's all my public methods that I want to expose. So then some of your other code doesn't have to be as perfectly structured as some of the other ones. So you just choose what you want to make public. Again, these are all preferences, so all these patterns are kind of like what's your coding style, what kind of makes sense to you. All of them won't have the power, to do the same thing. So a couple benefits with the module pattern is it allows for public and private variables and methods. It supports global import, so you can throw in those dependencies like jQuery, a reference to underscore, any other library that you need, you can bring in. You can also pass in other modules. Haven't shown an example of that yet, but you can also pass in modules as well. So the big thing with modules is out of the box, it's harder to talk to them, and you don't necessarily want to call my module dot, get name or some public method. Another pattern to kind of grasp, and I'll show you an example of these as time permits, but this is the pub sub pattern. So this allows your modules to talk together without actually having to, like module A would not have to say module B dot get name. it would actually, module A could actually have a subscriber. Let me show the whole parts of this. But module A could just listen for has a name changed. You know, subscribe to has a name changed, and then module B can then publish the same event and say name has changed or whatever, and then they talk to each other, but they're decoupled. Let me get into module loaders. Actually, let me pause here a second. All right, so I just want to let you guys know I have some sample code of each of these patterns, and I'll put them on GitHub, and you guys can download them. I'll have you the link at the end of the presentation, but these are ways where you can see these different patterns doing essentially the same type of app. But all this app does is I type in, you know, hello, and then I can update the module name, and that's all of this code right here. So I just created an object literal, and then I'm just enclosing a function totally separate to do the event handlers. This can be done a different way. And then let's look at the module pattern. So again, the module pattern returns everything in a object to make those public. So very much the same thing. It's going to work the same. And the code that you do not see here, let me bring this up. So this is not a best practice, but just for a boilerplate type app, I didn't do the binding separate. So here I just called some module update name from the button, and so it's calling the update name right here. It's just calling this function to then get the values and then set the name of the text. So again, these different patterns, a couple of different ways, but I have all this code for you guys to take a look at. Let's see. I'm going to stop right there and come back to the module loaders. So the other Chris Aquino, he referenced require.js, some of the different module loaders, and what this allows you to do is load your modules. Require.js does it asynchronously, so you can load as many at once, and then once they're ready, they execute. Browserify, another one that'll help you to load your modules. And there's also Webpack, which I've actually been checking out, and you know, it's like there's always a new tool every few months, so it's just check them out, see what works for your workflow. Webpack is also another great one that helps bundle your code together and more like features, so it feels more modular, where you can specify all these modules kind of have similar functionality. I want to bundle these and minify these into one file, and then you can have a little more, you know, pick and choose what you're loading. Whereas require.js, most patterns, people are loading a separate file for every new feature or every new dependencies. A quick sample of require.js, a module import, is the define function, and it's similar if you've used Angular, has a similar pattern, as well as what I was showing earlier, where we pass in a variable. Here we have an array of strings for reference dependencies. So foo is just a string so that it doesn't get minified into a variable. And then foo has been passed in, and then you can return your function as your module to execute different tasks. So again, ES6 has other options for you, but that's pretty much it. I just want to get you guys just to see different patterns, think about them. I have the code up for you guys to check out and play with, and feel free to email me or ping me in any way to help you along. Thanks, and then I can take questions, of course, as well.